down to 5. Check your natural point of aim. Get your sights lined up on the heart. Close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, let all your musculature relax, and see if they move left or right. They move left or right. Move your whole body to get you lined up in the center. Once you're there, don't move. Once you have your natural point of aim, 5-round group in the heart, 0 confirmation. 5-round group in the heart, 0 confirmation. The line is hot. It is on you. The line is hot. That's okay. That's all right. Good to go.
Who did that?
That's what it was. Wrong one, but I got it. Yeah. Probably about 3 left. Where was your aiming point exactly, Scott? Okay, yeah, I'd probably do like 3 and 3. Not bad, Brittany. Real fast on that trigger. Okay. Straight trigger, you're probably not going to have much prep on it.
Yeah, I just put it in last night. I hadn't shot it yet.
Okay. But pin it to the rear, let the gun do its thing, and then let it out. And then same thing each time, because it's a controlled thing. We want to let it's 8 cycles of function on that sucker.
Yeah.
And it's doing that, even though it seems like it's instantaneous, that bullet coming out of the barrel, we got to give it time.
This trigger's like way shorter, but I like it. But
they're awesome triggers. I love a flat trigger.
So,
you didn't want to do that.
I wouldn't make any adjustments. I would just shoot one more group and you're probably good to go.
You know that.
And that'll take probably between a
He's going to have a lot of editing to do.
We'll see as we refine the next one. That'll tell us exactly about where it's at.
I gave it a click left.
Yep. Aiming point right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that'd be
I was
about,
actually there.
Okay. Yeah, I'd click left, maybe even 2.
Okay.
Just because those things sometimes are a little finicky. Yep, I still do the same thing, even though they say you don't have to.
Yeah.
But then as far as where it's at otherwise for 100-yard 0, that's right where it needs to be.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
5-round confirmation group, aiming at the heart, aiming at the heart. Line is hot, line is hot, it's on you. When you're done, safety down, make your way back to your feet.
Ow. Ow.
Hey Brittany, much trigger.
yeah, I got. You told me to slow down the actual trigger versus the process.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to that where I know that whatever, and this I'm trying to. I like it though.
I went to that head down, that short rifle,
Yeah.
and shot it week before last or whatever it was, and that's just a military grade. When we're shooting these groups or when we're zeroing, as we're working and refining the fundamentals, we have to come down and do a little bit of group analysis. Now, 50 yards is pretty close for doing this group analysis, but we can still do it. When we make any of our adjustments, we want to take the mean point of impact of the group. So I'm just going to use these here, you know, with your triangle. If we take these large ones and say we got 2 more that are in here, just like you did, Wes, you've got the triangle. The mean point of impact of your group is in the center of that. Okay? The reason I have you all shoot a 5-round group is because we're only human, number one. 3-round group, if we blow one, which most of us will do, then we've only got two rounds that are there, and that's not a group. That's not a group, unless we're really got our fundamentals refined. When I start looking at this and doing group analysis, I have to look at three things. I have to look at the capabilities of the gun. In this instance with these ARs, we got to look at the twist rate and what weight bullet we're shooting. That makes a difference. But the capabilities of the gun in conjunction with the capabilities of the ammo, and lastly, the one that's most important is our capabilities as a shooter. Because if, say I have a custom-made gun that at 100 yards will shoot a half-minute angle, so a half inch at 100 yards, and between the rifle and the ammunition combination, it will shoot a half inch at 100 yards out of a vise, okay? But I'm only a minute shooter, a 1-inch shooter. I can't expect anything greater than that. And that's not even taken into consideration, you know, maybe you went out drinking last night, you didn't get 8 hours of sleep, you don't feel right, the heat's starting to bother you. All those things affect it, can open up our group as we get fatigued and we aren't at the top of our game. So we have to look at our groups and realize that, hey, they're not all going to be in the same hole. Sometimes they are, but we can't have that expectation. We have to analyze those three things and then go, is that an acceptable group, and where's the mean point of impact? And so for you, Wes, like I said, you're zeros. And as we go throughout the day and we refine your fundamentals, we can tweak this on the fly. It's no big deal. We can tweak it on the fly. As long as we're applying fundamentals correctly and we have a good, consistent group, we can move that mean point of impact and get you exactly where you need to be. As a refresh, that high ready, I'm bringing it back under my arm, I'm pinning it down, it's a position of strength. I'm elevating the muzzle, I'm looking over where the muzzle in the front sight is. I'm not obscuring my line of vision, because we have to have awareness of what's going on out in the world and ascertain what's happening. Okay, orient ourselves to the situation as it's unfolding. Once I identify that they're a threat, my eyes get locked on where I want my sight and bullet to go. It's almost like with the high ready, I have a table that's here and a ceiling that's here, and I got to shoot the gap. It's a very linear approach when I drive the rifle out into my line of vision. As I'm doing that, I've made the conscious decision that I'm going to engage. Safety comes off, finger rolls into the trigger as I establish a cheek weld, and then I determine, is it still a threat situation? Then I can go through and apply my fundamentals. So I'm here, I identify that threat, I'm going to drive it through the window, I clear my clothing and kit if I have it, safety goes off, comes back in, finger rolls in, and I make that determination if I'm going to shoot. If so, yes. Gun go through cycle, function, cycle, recoil, sight settles back down. I'm assessing my work through my sights. Did I get a desired effect? Okay. If I didn't, I'm ready to shoot again. Okay. Low ready, pivot point in the shoulder with the stock. It's more center line. I'm going to use the bottom of it. It's going to come to here. I'm going to avert the muzzle down so I can see the hands in the belt line. Okay. Why the belt line, Brittany?
Because that's where bad people keep bad things to do bad things to good people.
Excellent. Absolutely. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. I've been coaching her. You did great. She didn't know that was going to happen either, y'all. So
Good job. I had to think about it too.
Proximity dictates how much my muzzle dips. So I can see that. The closer I get, the more it's going to dip down. The farther back I go, the less it's going to be dipped down. But I want to have the ability, regardless, to be able to move my head so I keep that awareness. While we're doing this in a controlled environment, you can establish that natural point of aim. So I'm going to aim in on the target. I'm going to check my natural point of aim for standing, because I want to build that neural pathway. So when I'm in a dynamic environment, I more intuitively get into it, because that's the way that I've practiced. Close my eyes, take a couple deep breaths. If I need to move, I'm pretty centered on that. Okay, I'm going to set my feet and keep them there. We're not instituting movement yet. Okay, and I'm going to come back to this high ready. Okay, so I'm at the high ready. I got my eyes locked down where I want my sight and bullet to go. I understand what I need to apply for my holdover. It's going to come out, and just like I talked about, apply the holdover, roll in, determine that I still need to shoot, press, wait a second. Administrative action, I got to reset it. I'm going to reach up, reset, build my position again, safety back on. I can assess and scan if I want to build that routine. Okay, and now I'm going to go to low ready. Like I said, you guys are going to do 5 iterations of dry from the high ready before we go live. I'm here, my feet have stayed where they're at, snap the gun up, find my holdover, finger rolls in, I determine that the situation still warrants me shooting, apply the fundamentals, okay, Wait a second. Finger comes outside. Administrative action. I reset. I'm back in my combat bubble. Safety's on.
Now this dude right here showed up to this class in a Harley with that getup and the saddlebags. Straight legit.
Work good.
What'd you do? Take it apart? Yeah. Cool. Ooh, nice paint job. Did you do that yourself?
I did.
Heck yeah, man.
Thanks. I had green because I did it during the fall when everything was dying.
It's good.
Thanks.
Yeah, I get side clamp every now and then.
I think that was 5.
Per iteration, 3 rounds. Conduct a proactive reload or emergency reload when it's appropriate. All right, 3 rounds to the cranial ocular bulb, 3 rounds to the head. Threat. Don't forget, assess your work through your sights. Scan your world. Make sure there's no other threats out there.
Gotta go up higher. I know, me too.
Yep, and that's what we're doing. We're establishing that so everybody knows. All right. 3 rounds to the head. 3 rounds to the head. Threat. Assess and scan your world. Proactive or emergency reload when you feel it's an appropriate time. All those things that we worked yesterday. Once you've established your natural point of aim, make sure you have your feet set. Go into a ready position of choice. High ready, low ready, over the shoulder roll. And we'll know everybody's good. We're sticking with the head. Everybody's still sticking with the head. 3 rounds. Threat. And the same thing, we're just adding distance, watching that holdover diminish, Once everybody's in a ready position, we're sticking with the head, 3 rounds. Threat.
The first one's not aiming high enough.
Shot him in
Yeah,
the tooth?
my closer ones were all my low ones.
It was a gold tooth.
It was a gold tooth?
I keep forgetting that these are not the same size heads of what I'm accustomed to shooting at home.
Yep.
So my holdovers have to be higher.
Yep. So with this, and the reason I do it too, Abner, is I want you to think anatomy more than the target that's there.
Yeah, which is why I reminded myself, forehead.
I know exactly where
That's it.
You know, again, we're just trying to build that pathway and strengthen it, so it becomes intuitive.
No.
And when we talk some on these other ones, I'll talk about there's an additional technique to just knowing and applying the holdover that works, especially when they're in a weird position. And our dot or sighting system is in space, because a lot of people don't have a frame of reference of that. They don't understand when it's in space what 2.5 inches is or something like that. So I'll talk about that technique after we take a break, and that might help some folks.
Thank you, sir.
The head's a very hard thing to hit because it's always in constant motion, and that target area is relatively small. So going back to that anatomy charts that we were talking back there, if we look at it, and it's actually pretty big on that because they're taking the whole brain. If you get penetration to the spine to get the CNS hit, okay, so it's big, but we got to think about, we got bony structure in our cheeks, we got bony structure in our head. Like I mentioned yesterday and in previous classes, I know 2 dudes from group that were shot in the head, and aside from ringing their bell, it wasn't detrimental to them. So, you know, when we hit that bony structure, it can deflect the bullet, and for them it just zipped around the outside of the skull inside their ballistic helmet. And so the head, for me, I don't think is a viable option to go to unless that's all I have. Okay? But we got a really viable option in the pelvic girdle. And, you know, it's pretty decisive when we put correct shot placement in the pelvic girdle, we get that mobility kill, and that might end the fight. I said again, we have to worry about, you know, are the hands in play? What happens if we don't get a debilitating shot in the pelvic girdle? Okay, so for the stitch 'em up drill, what we're going to do is 2 to 3 rounds in the chest, and visualize that you don't get a desired effect. And then 1 to 2 rounds in the good parts of the pelvic girdle, which we have here. So think of the bone structure, think of the anatomy that we pointed out on the targets that are back there, and then we don't get the result that we want there, we're going to stitch them up center line coming up the spine, and at any time, you know, we could have a desired effect there where they fall down and that ends the fight. But if not, we're softening them up to slow that down so I can get one precise shot to the head. Now most likely, if we employ a rifle, are we going to go from the chest to the pelvis, stitch up the spine, and still have to do a headshot? If we apply marksmanship and get good hits, probably not. But we want to train for worst case scenario, because if anything other than worst case scenario happens, it's easy. Ready position of choice, I could touch that natural point of aim if I want to. Pretty good. So 2 to 3 rounds to the chest, move to the pelvis, still no desired effect, and then stitch them up the spine, ending with the head. So I'm here, threat. Assess and scan. I assess my work through my sights. I got a desired effect. I scan for any other threats or anybody that needs a little bit of loving. Okay, I can get it in my workspace. Conduct a proactive reload, insert and tug, stow that, continue to assess my situation, and relax. Threat. Excellent. Might be a good time to do a proactive reload to work it into your routine. We won't be able to count how many rounds we shot. And heck, why not get the practice? That's what we're here for, right? Once you're in a condition you're happy with, go ahead and get in a ready position of choice. We're going to do it one more time. Same drills. Threat. The stitch 'em up drill going to the left. Single lateral step to the left. Assess and scan at the end. Threat. All right, guys. All right. Go ahead, face on your targets. Face on your targets. Make sure they're in a condition that you're happy with, and assume a ready position of choice. We're going to go the opposite way this time. Same drill, opposite way, to the right, to the right. Stitch them up drill to the right. All right, the line looks good. Threat. We're going to do 2 evolutions of this. The stitch 'em up drill is still the same. We're going to go back to stationary just because we're adding another layer of complexity. Okay. The first one though is going to be, and I'm going to shoot this demo. Okay, and I'm going to demo what I would say. But we're going to use a verbal recording because, like I said, they might not be a threat. We might have ballistically altered their behavioral pattern, and they don't want to play anymore, especially because I just busted up their hip. Okay. What do I do then? It's not always a shoot solution. Okay, most everything is a shoot solution here because that's what you guys come here to pay for. You come here to learn, but to make the guns go bang. You know, that's why we go to a shooting class, right? But not everything's a shooting solution out in the world. So we're going to give this person, we're going to visualize and follow them down, and we're going to give them a verbal recording. Okay? I don't care what it is. And like I said, I'm going to give you what my verbal recording is. For those of you that have never given a verbal recording to somebody, and we're not under a stress level here, for the most part. Kip, I know you stay in a perpetual state of anxiety, but that's just your personality. Okay, but aside from that, I guarantee you we're going to have a few people, if you've never done this before, that when they go to give a verbal command, in their mind they think they're saying something, it's going to come out, fuck!
Yeah.
And Abner can attest to this with his law enforcement background.
Yeah, because when you play that hard drive back, you're like, I actually said that out loud.
So, but we train and we do things here and we get exposure to them in a controlled environment. Hopefully you go home and practice. You can go home and yell at your significant other if you want to give them verbal commands. So when we're in an adrenalized state, we're not trying to make it up on the fly. Right? Does that make sense? Okay, so that's going to be the first one. We'll have everybody shoot it, and then we'll go into the next evolution of it. All right. Okay, so you can come up, get into your combat bubble. We're going to start the stitch 'em up drill on this. Okay, so 2 to 3 rounds to the chest. Visualize, and I don't get a desired effect. 1 round to the pelvis, a good shot. Calling your shot as you do it, because if it's not a good destabilization shot of the pelvis, make it up. Okay, but we'll say that you get a good shot. Follow them down, give them a verbal command, okay? And then I'll call index at the end of it once everybody's done, okay? So ready position of choice. I'm here thread, I'm gonna drive it out, 2 to 3. Okay, 1 to the pelvis. Show me your hands! Roll over on your belly, put your hands out to your side. Cross your feet, do not move, do not move. Index, okay? It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that. And now, obviously, we would add complexity to this, especially if it's in more of a realistic context, where then I'm going to apply tactics initially. If I haven't moved to cover, I'm going to move to cover, and then I can continue to give verbal commands, watch them, assess my area, etc. But this is the skill set and isolation drill that we're going to do right now. The stitch 'em up drill, but with a mobility shot to the pelvis, follow them to the ground, verbal command. Threat.
Do it now! Turn away from me! Do it now!
Good. Threat.
Go to the ground! Do it now! Turn away from me! Do it now!
I'm not going to call anybody out, and I don't want anybody to call anybody out, but was there anybody, either you or to your left or right, that we heard, fuck, it's our belly?
I'm going that in because I'm scared now.
I didn't hear that.
That was.
I know you did. Pick a verbal recording or a couple of them, practice it, have it in your data bank in your mental Rolodex that you can access so you're not making it up on the fly. They decide that we are not an easy target and they want to go pick on somebody else, so we don't have to shoot them. Okay? We're prepared to do it, hopefully. We've made those moral and ethical decisions. We know the law. They met the preamble. The gun comes out, and I've exercised tactical patience and realized that, hey, they don't want to play anymore. It's no longer a shooting solution. I need to give them verbal commands, get behind a piece of cover, dial 911, and pay people like Abner when he was back on the job to come and take care of this person.
Be a historian.
And be a historian. Okay? So, but we need to be able to do that. We've got to have options, because if the only thing we have is a shoot solution, it doesn't matter how great we are at it, the particular problem set needs something else, and we don't have any other options. That's what ends up putting us in a penitentiary. So we train to shoot every single time, and now all of a sudden it's not a shoot solution. Guess who goes to jail?
Not the bad guy.
Yep, not the bad guy. So we're going to do that one more time. Now that we've talked about it, everybody got a chance to do it. Exact same drill. 2 to 3 to the chest, moving down to the pelvic girdle. 1 good shot in the pelvic girdle. Make it up if it's not a good shot, calling our shots. Okay, follow them to the ground, give them a verbal command. I'll call index, let them relax, and then we'll add the next evolution into it. Okay? Assume a ready position of choice. Everybody take a deep breath, pull it in, let it out, relax, get in your combat bubble, think about what you're doing, and threat.
Down to the ground! Turn away from me! Do it now!
Get on the ground.
Don't move.
Good.
I will
Index,
shoot.
index, index. Relax. A threat on the way to the ground, we can continue to engage, but we have to deem that they're still a threat to us, be able to articulate that on the law side after the fact, okay? And I can't really replicate that out here with, just with what we have. So visualization is important. So what we're gonna do is on the threat command, 2 to 3 rounds to the chest, 1 good round to the pelvis. We'll follow them down and then put a round in between the eyes and the cranial-ocular ball. 2 to 3 rounds to the chest, good one to the pelvis, and then transfer down. He's still a threat. And what I want you guys to key in on too is that firearm in his hand. I chose these targets for a specific reason. And then shift your focus to where you want your bullet to go. Because if we don't, and I only identify the threat, bullets end up going there, okay? So we're here. Threat, it comes up, down, decent shot, I come down, I identify that it's a threat, I apply my holdover, okay, assess and scan, he is down. Do this particular block of instruction and try to put it to realistic context and put it into a context that is applicable to armed citizens, okay? And that's turns, okay? Everybody teaches turns, okay? You go to just about any class and they teach turns. They teach left turns, right turns, 180 turns.
I thought he said turds.
That too, well, depending on the instruction.
It's like, yeah, that's my lingo right there, baby.
Yep, it could be. We need to train on it. We need to train on it because traditionally when we're on the range, and a lot of people, if they do turns, they get turds, whichever. They get the turns. You can put whatever moniker on it.
Quack.
Hey, as I'm standing back there, that moniker gets put on some of y'all with the techniques out there. Okay. Your verbal commands, some of those that would fall into that category.
What was the best one you heard so far?
Literally, remember the example that I used earlier? That was exactly what came out.
What was it?
Fuck! Swear to God, that's what came out of their mouth. I was like, I don't know what that is. I understood the last word. I'm pretty well versed in 4-letter vernacular, but it's interesting.
I just waited till it was done, then yelled.
Trust me, when your life is a nanosecond from being ended and you know it, you are going to F-bomb and take God's name in vain, sure. And you're going to be like, why did I do that? Because you were terrified.
Yep. And there's another reason why we use that vernacular sometimes is if we think of the criminal element, we think about the criminal paradigm, the people that are out there, and I don't know how well versed you all are with the seedier elements that are out there. Judging by the folks that we have here, you're probably very well versed in it. But how do they talk to each other? They talk.
They're potty mouth.
Yep, potty mouth, right? So when and this isn't really part of this class, but in some of the pistol classes and that, when we're talking about managing unknown contacts or MUC, that was developed by Craig Douglas and the ShivWorks guys and that, give them credit where credit's due, okay? We ask somebody to do something.
She didn't see me.
We demand somebody to do something, and then we tell them to do something. And when we get to that point, and it was like you were saying, Abner, with what they taught at the academy, we need to use a vernacular that they understand. But we also have to use it in a way that commands what we want without exaggerating the situation more. And I'll give you a quick example of it. Like I said, it's not part of the curriculum, but it's just good education. If I'm dealing with somebody and get my hands up in a non-threatening position, and I move, we don't have to move radically offline, but I do want to get the angle on them. And, hey, J-Ski, stop right there. And he continues to come at me. That might stop him. That might stop him. But as he continues to come, now I demand, stop right there!
Yeah, and it works.
And then he does, and then I'm like, back the fuck up! So I'm using language that they understand, and I'm elevating what I'm saying. And when I hit that last where I'm, that back the F up, that has flipped the mental switch now that I'm going to preemptive strike, hit him with OC, get offline. If it's a shoot solution because lethal intent is there and they meet that preamble, I can do that. So we have to understand how to do that and being able to use that vernacular in the correct way so they understand. Because some guy that just got out of prison is not going to be like, hey man, can you stop right there? No, 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 don't come any closer. Don't come any closer. You think that that's going to work? Hell no. Hell no. So there is a time and a place for it. There's a time and a place for it. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about turns and how I think that they apply. Okay. Traditionally, when we train on the range, it's like you all have been doing right up to this point. Is we face a one-dimensional target, chest to chest. Okay, maybe we take a step to the left or right. We're still pretty much there, and that's not replicating the world that we live in, right? We live in a 360-degree world with people around that are moving. A threat can come from anywhere, and we have to be able to address that. So I could be here and in my peripheral vision, or as I'm have my awareness, I see something that looks odd, I turn and try to orient to the situation. And what I mean by orient is not orienting my body, which a lot of people take it as, but I'm trying to figure out the situation, how it's actually unfolding. Okay, so a lot of us, if we don't have an experiential base, will be like, that doesn't look right, but oh no, that's okay, that's okay. And in reality, we're getting ready to get our clock cleaned, or somebody's pulling a gun or doing something. We just don't know. That's why when you listen to active shooter people that are interviewed after the fact, or somebody that was robbed, what do they generally say?
It happened so fast.
It happened so fast, they came out of nowhere. Yeah, you guys got the two lines perfect. Okay, that's because they don't have a conceptual base or an experiential base to understand what was actually happening to them. That's that orientation. Okay, but I have to be able to get my body in a good fighting mobile stance so I can address that if I deem that they're a threat, meeting that preamble. Okay, so turns I believe are important. Now we're just going to cover left and right turns. For me, a 180 I don't think is extremely applicable, just because of the circumstances that I see, and this is again just my opinion, of generally we aren't ambushed as armed citizens. Nobody's stalking us and setting up out there where, Paul goes running and I get to hear, now Jason pops out and starts shooting me from the back where I need to whirl around and be able to address him. I just haven't seen it all that far. Okay. Now, do we have to have the ability to do it? Yeah. For me, it's an exercise in proprioceptive and kinesthetic awareness, what our body is doing and where our appendages are in relation and while they're in motion. And so we can do that. I just don't think it's applicable tactically, and people overcomplicate turns, in my opinion, way too much. So, is everybody tracking with me so far? Okay. So, I'm not asking you to do anything crazy when we turn. Y'all have been the bipedal human beings and walking upright for however old you are, minus 6 or 8 months. Okay, so it's nothing crazy. The only principle and concept that I would like you to adhere to is not to step back. Because stepping back out in an environment, out in the world when we're in an adrenalized state, we can trip over debris or curb our own feet, and we end up on our hind end, and being on the ground during a lethal force encounter is an extremely bad place to be. Okay? And maybe this afternoon, if we have time and it fits into context of what we're doing, but definitely in the next class, for sure, we will talk about fighting up from the ground if we find ourselves in a worst case scenario. Okay, but let's not get there to begin with. So when I'm here, when I go to turn, and this is a non-fire drill, guys, so I'm going to turn, I'm going to identify that they're a threat, so I'm using the target below, I see that he has a gun, and now I'm shifting my focus to the heart. And then all I'm going to do, I like angles and I step through. It doesn't really matter. The only principle and concept I need to adhere to is not stepping back. And I'm going to orient and drive the gun into my line of vision. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Basically a pivot.
Yeah, it's a pivot. Yeah, it's just a pivot. If I'm going the other way, and I'm here, okay, my head is up, I see something that catches my attention, I look, I determine that it's a threat, I shift my gaze to where I'm going to drive the gun, and I want to be in a fighting mobile stance. I drive the gun into my line of vision, and I shoot the appropriate number of rounds until I get a desired effect. Assess and scan after that, top the guns off when you need to. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's not rocket science. Threat. Threat. Good. Everybody's assessing and scanning. Everybody get them up up in your workspace. Do a proactive reload. Get them up in your workspace. Do a proactive reload. A little bit of practice. Right. Good. Area in that acceptable sight alignment and an acceptable target area, that is my cue. The sights drive when I do this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. That's why we bring up the anatomy. Now, granted, with that, I want you to never sacrifice marksmanship for speed, and we want to get you as tight as possible because we know in an adrenalized state it's going to open up. It happens to everybody. So the tighter we can get you, the more forgiving it is. But we still have to understand that, you know, the sights drive what we do. Situation drives how we respond. So, does everybody understand how we're integrating turns into this system that we're building? Okay, now we're going to keep adding to it. Last drill prior to going to lunch. Okay, and this is kind of putting things together. So we've done the initial part of the movement module where we've added that lateral step. We've done turns. You guys have applied the fundamentals of marksmanship, the different ready positions, etc., etc. Okay. This last drill, we're going to use the targets that are here. Okay. I want you to shoot headshots on this. Headshots on this. There's going to be several things going on, and you're going to play two roles as you're doing this. Okay, or throughout this. You will be a shooter, but then also you will just be a standing pillar at one point. Again, what we are going to do is work in and around the first person. Plant our feet, drive the gun up, and put 2 shots in the cranial-ocular vault. Assess and scan, and I'm moving again. I'm going to step in, having situational awareness, get my gaze, apply my holdover, assess and scan, and I'm moving again. I'm keeping my head up so I can evaluate the situation, plant my feet, drive the gun. Okay. Assess and scan, so on and so forth, until I get to the end, and after I'm done shooting, tap Scott out.
Ooh, okay. Lord have mercy, that's loud.
Shot up. Make that shot up. Call your shot. You shot him in the neck. There you go. Apply that holdover. Continue on. We're still in the neck, but we'll be okay.
That's what you meant by retarded muzzle device.
Yes. Open your mouth.
Oh, you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
It's my fault,
You need to fix your guns. Just
right.
Do that. All right. And go. And go. Ding dong. Keep going, go to the end. Go to the end, still shoot. We gotta be on Eric. Hayden, please replace Hayden. You go replace Jason.
I got you.
You've already gone through, just hang back. There you go, good, Jason. Yep.
America!
Good. Last time. Finish around. Don't give up.
Oh, it's
on
after
him.
him too. Oh! Ah! I thought he was just standing there. I thought he was the end of the line.
Yeah, after you're done shooting.
I am the end of the line, baby.
All right, everybody get through to shoot, right? Does everybody understand how we put everything together with that drill? And so now we're putting these sub skill sets together in a little bit more realistic context, you know, within the confines of the range, and working in and around people to make y'all comfortable.
Yeah. Just one thing I noticed, if you're moving in and around people or objects, don't look at the ground. I know a lot of guys are trying to think, this is where I'm going to stand, I'm going to try to walk around this person. You still need to keep your focus on what's downrange.
Yep, absolutely, great point. Great point. We have to start to learn to use our peripheral vision and widen it out, okay, and be comfortable with that. And that's just that proprioception kinesthetics, you know, that I was talking about. It's a learned skill. It takes time, but we do need people to point it out to us because we don't realize that we're doing it.
All right, guys, check this out. I want to show you something. This is a Tesla Model X that's owned by one of the students attending this class, and you can hear it. You can hear the air conditioning unit running. He ran this in AC mode all day yesterday and all day today. It's late afternoon right now, and he's running this in air conditioning mode, and I asked him earlier why he's doing that, and he says if somebody gets hurt, we have somewhere cool to load them into. You know, if someone has any heat issues, we have somewhere cool to load them into so we can render aid. Guys, this is what it is to be part of a community, to be part of the Personal Survival Solutions community. This is the tribe that is part of Personal Survival Solutions, and it's really, really cool to see this kind of thing.
Five meaning
The after lunch warm-up.
5 dry fires.
5 dry
one
fires.
actual shot.
Yep.
5 dry fires, 1 live. Does anyone have any questions?
I love it too because I explain everything. You know, I'll even say whatever the target area is. I will shoot the demo, and then I step behind the line, and before a word comes out of my mouth, somebody will turn around and goes, "How many rounds are we going to shoot?"
No.
Where?
Yeah.
And you're distracted with other stuff though.
Look, something shiny.
Yeah, exactly.
And keep at it. Work your sling.
As slow as your round is.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Hey Kip, just like with your other gun, come up underneath, use that support hand for running that action. Okay. So we want to use that hand and keep that master grip on the gun. Okay. In this instance, we're clearing it out, but that's administrative gun handling. Otherwise, it creates bad habits. If I'm fixing something, say I've got a bad round, I want to have control because I can rack that, and if they're in close proximity, roll the gun and be able to shoot if I need to. If I'm doing it this way, it's going to take me more time.
Gotcha.
Did it work?
There for a second.
Did that work?
Yes, it does. Awesome.
Good.
Thank you so much.
And don't worry, Kip, everybody's watching you.
Yep.
There you go. Good job, man.
See, I'm telling you, Kalashnikov was a closet lefty because that gun runs better for a lefty.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been collecting some of the history books on the... Put your hand out. Put your hand out.
Ah, yeah, you're right.
No, I know I'm right.
What do you do?
I did one right.
He went right back to his right hand again.
Yeah. And guess what? That, for years, was my problem with AR-15s. I'm a lefty.
Yep.
Right? So this is why I recently invested in the BCM ambies, because I needed to keep my shooting hand in place and run the gun and stay on it. And all of a sudden, my times on the rifle standards dropped by tenths of seconds.
Yep.
All because of that motion right there.
Mm-hmm. And it keeps you in a good position that if you have to fire with just a master grip, you can.
You're not releasing and having to readjust.
So maybe movement isn't going to work for me. But in this instance, we're going to integrate multiple steps. As I said, we do it with a pistol. Creating distance, which buys us time, which allows me to do whatever act I'm trying to do. So why wouldn't I do it with the rifle? It's just as applicable. Okay. Now think back also to the turns, and we're going to kind of integrate those in while we do this next drill. Okay. Those turns, because I live in a 360-degree world, I'm there, all of a sudden I see something, okay, but I want to create space because I'm trying to play catch up. Instead of turning in and driving the gun, now I'm going to take multiple steps offline. Okay, whether it's laterally or diagonally, sometimes it's advantageous for me to move forward towards them, or the environment pushes me there, or maybe I'm kind of combining them and J-hooking, so I'm opening up my field of view so I can see if there's other threats out there, and making it more difficult, because when I get on the outside of somebody's center line, it makes it more difficult for them to track me. And in addition to the things that we talked about before lunch, disrupting their decision-making process, creating space, buying time, etc., etc. Okay, so is everybody tracking with that so far? Understand where I'm going with this? So it can really work to our advantage. We're using that movement to get us to a position that's advantageous to us, and then I am dropping into that fighting mobile stance, planting my feet, and turning my toes, hips, and shoulders in the direction of travel. That being where I want the bullet to go. Okay. Once I get the shots in a desired effect, or maybe not, and also we can put this into context that maybe I'm explosively moving to a piece of cover that I see. Or if I don't, I get the shots and now I'm moving again. So that emphasis that we did at the beginning of yesterday, or you guys got at the beginning of the first class, where I just went on and on about stance and having a good fighting platform or system with our feet. Okay, that's the reason for it, because I said we're not multitaskers. So I'm either shooting or I'm moving. When I plant my feet, now I'm back to shooting. I can do that and put all my energies there. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to demo it on this center target here where I was shooting earlier. Okay, we're going back to the high center chest. I'll give you a prescribed number of rounds. We're putting it together. When it's your all's time to go, we are going to shoot on the target. It's going to be number 3 over on this side and number 8 over on this side. Okay, so we're going to break the group in half so we can get a couple extra reps in and go either way. So threat, I'm going to keep my eyes on the threat. I'm going to move until I decide to plant my feet. Drive my hips in the direction of travel, bring the gun up, apply my holdover, assess and scan. As the gun was coming out, I've already identified that it's a threat by the gun. I shift my focus to where I want my sights and bullet to go, applying the appropriate holdover for the distance. Nice high center chest hits. I finish doing my assess and scan, and I can top off if I feel that it's appropriate.
Threat.
Good assess.
Threat.
Good. Assess and scan, and then back of the line. Excellent.
Threat.
Good. Assess and scan. Nicely done. Excellent. Good. Paul is my threat. Now I go, oh crap. What's Paul gonna do? He's gonna move, probably. And now, where does that put me in that cycle of initiative?
Behind the power curve.
Yep. On the back side of it, right? Because I just reset my own OODA loop or decision-making process. So if Paul's a bad guy, oh crap, even when I turn, I can see where I'm going here in my peripheral vision. I can see him in my peripheral vision. Okay, as I'm motivating, and he starts to move, I can track him. Now this is the appropriate time. I plant my feet, turn my hips, and I don't have to figure out what the hell just happened. I still got a visual reference of where I'm going to drive the gun and where I want the bullet to go. Okay. Everybody did really good on that. I didn't really see anybody go, look the other way and just keep going. So we saw some dancing with the stars, hop, crossing the feet, but it's okay. It's not that big a deal.
Threat.
Threat.
Heck yeah.
And
Get it here, girls.
Yep. To the back, Brian.
To the back.
Don't mess up.
That helps, thank you.
All right, go ahead and get them in a ready position of choice. Going to the right. 3 to 5 rounds. Threat. Same drill going to the right. And threat.
It'll be in there quick.
Good assessment. Are you ready, Abner? All right, threat. Good assessment scan. We're applying fundamentals of marksmanship. It's not moving and shooting, it's moving, planting your feet, applying marksmanship, and then shooting. Okay? We're just doing it in an extended drill. So this will be the highest round count drill that we're gonna do. Is the way that it's gonna work is 1 full magazine, okay? 3 rounds at each cone. Nope, let's make it 5. We'll make it 5 just for shits and giggles. Because then we're also training our finger to get past that trigger finger freeze or that hitch in our giddy up that all of us get when we shoot higher round counts. Once you go to bolt lock, okay, you can do one of 2 things. You can either stay right there, maybe take a step, but stay right there. Utilize the cone is simulated cover for that particular instance. So you got to work with me a little bit here. Okay? You can do it behind cover and do an emergency reload and then 1 more shot. Or you can do the emergency reload on the fly, because that's sort of multitasking, but it's more task stacking because now that you got the mechanics. So we can pull off moving and doing a reload. It just, the wheels fall off when we do moving and shooting. High chest, 3 rounds each time. Threat.
What?
Look at your magazine. Which hand did you pick your magazine up off the ground with?
You're right, my left hand.
I know I am. No, I just pointed out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good reload. Good reload.
Thank you, sir.
All right, go ahead and step.
Oh, nice.
Safety on when moving. Right way to do it in a little bit more of context. Now this doesn't replicate the adrenaline and fear and all that of a encounter, but it helps solidify the skill sets that we're learning, because now we're adding complexity and stress to it. You guys got to run back and forth. Everybody was muzzle aware, trigger finger aware, and all that. You were practicing things that you didn't even realize that you practiced. The few things that I pointed out, they're minimal. they're minimal. But it's just I want you guys to be as best as you possibly can when you leave here. Smart man. Okay. Now with that, let's walk down and look at the targets and see how we did.
This one.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Like this, like that was all me right there. Like,
Yep.
those were multiple volts through one hole, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
7.62, that's a good shot right there. So that it explodes the bullet. It's
Honestly, that doesn't suck except for the doober-doo shot.
No, that's actually really good. That is.
That was me getting him in the junk.
oh no, I claimed that one.
Hey, you know, it is really good. It is really good.
Cops can't do that.
Nope. And most of the classes that I teach, especially the ones that I taught at different facilities, is we had complexity in. Even though, did we do anything different when you planted your feet and drove the gun than you've done in any of the other classes? Stationary fire, right? Applying the fundamentals. So that's another reason why I'm like, shooting and moving, I don't teach it. How I apply movement to what I'm doing is what you all just did right here, and I think that's way more applicable to the context of how you will employ these rifles. But even though it's nothing different, most of the time the wheels fall off on people, and it's a shotgun pattern on the whole frickin' thing.
Yeah.
And I don't even do a picture target. So, you know, we've got a gun, we don't have a designed area, all nice high hits that would be acceptable. Yeah, we got a few thrown off, but I'll use just a regular target, and man, they pepper that sucker from top to bottom, left to right. And the movement drill that we did before this one, same thing. Okay, that's just one. Let's go check the other ones.
Y'all think I'm kidding? If cops were doing this, there'd be shots all the way out here.
Yep. Again,
That's the truth.
again,
It is.
really good shooting on this. Really good shooting on this.
That is really good.
Yep, that is excellent.
Good job, comrade.
Not bad for a $150 AK.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
150.
Hey,
That's how much I
heck yeah.
paid.
Yeah, damn.
So this side good. Let's go see the other side.
Should make 10 times that.
My last 2 AKs for 100.
The cops are going to hate on me, but
That one off your
that's good.
As long as you don't look like a permit course. You're shooting fine.
one. The only one we could find was a
Well, I felt good about my 600 at the height of COVID. That's pretty good.
And right after that, Jason Dean had a nice Romanian one for sale, and I was like, man, I can't give you less than what I paid.
Bueno.
Yep. Still good though.
Yeah, it's really good.
Still really good. We got a couple flyers in there, but you know, one of the things that I want to emphasize too in this drill helps drive that point home is understanding what an acceptable target area is, what's an acceptable sight alignment in an acceptable target area to make the gun go bang. Okay. We have to understand, because we don't have time in the context of this drill to stop and take, you know, all kinds of time and stop the dot. We just got to learn that, yep, that's good enough, bang, and I'm on to the next one. So another learning point there. Good stuff. I mean, would almost everything
That's Tommy Lee Jones.
be who?
That's Tommy Lee Jones.
So we've had Tommy Lee Jones, we've had the Glock store guy,
Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick. So
It's the dad from Malcolm in the Middle.
Deflate that football.
the dad from Malcolm in the Middle. We need to start getting a list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But really good. Would all those have a desired effect on somebody? Pretty much. They pretty much would. I mean, yeah, we've got some peripheral ones here. That happens. Okay, that's why we're shooting multiple shots. We're assessing our work through our sights every time we press the trigger to see if I get a desired effect. I'm ready to shoot again. If I screw something up and I'm calling my shot, I just follow it up. So some of the different positional shooting you guys have done standing offhand. We've talked about that already. Talked about some of the intricacies with that to settle the dot or sighting system by stretching the gun or trying to tear it apart. Okay? We can only do that for a limited amount of time because it's very fatiguing, so we have to understand muscle contraction and relaxation. Okay? Actually, Paul brought it up several classes ago when we were talking about this, his definition of it, which I've kind of, have been using. I pirated and butcher a little bit, but that contraction and relaxation when it comes to stretching the gun is important. We do it for a limited amount of time. We either break the shot or we relax, do it again, and then break the shot. It gives us enough settling in the sighting system to get rounds where we need them to go. You guys have done prone. We've talked about that in the 0 and 0 confirmation, so you guys should be familiar with that. what I want to address is speed knee, which we did yesterday, so I want to hit the highlights, and you guys should have got that in the first class. Okay, and then traditional knee and seated. Okay, the lower that we get to the ground as we're doing this, the more stability that we gain, but we also start to sacrifice some of our mobility. Okay, so sometimes we have to give something up to gain something. You are the only one that can determine if the gain is good enough for the sacrifice. Does that make sense? Okay. So speed knee again. And I'm gonna go out on the grass because my knees are shot anyway, and I know I'm gonna slam it into a piece of gravel. Just like standing offhand, when I go to get into that speed knee, okay, because I want to reduce my silhouette, maybe I want to maximize a piece of low cover that's out there, maybe I just want to give them a different look, because doing a height difference gets the same benefit as movement, right? If I step offline or if I blast offline to disrupt their decision-making process, if I'm standing upright and all of a sudden now I drop and I'm half the size of what I was before, can I get the same effect as far as that disruption of the OODA loop? Yeah. Okay. So I'm here, I drop. Which knee doesn't really matter. Heck, you can even drop it into a double knee. You got quite a bit of stability there, but I do sacrifice a lot of mobility on that. Okay. I go down onto my right knee because I'm right-handed. That's intuitive for me. Left-handed, obviously, is just the opposite, but it doesn't really matter. The end state is what I achieve. So I'm here, I'm going to drop down, okay? Bring the gun back into my shoulder. If I decide to stretch the gun and try and tear it in half, I can do that. Settle the sights, get the shots that I need, applying the fundamentals of marksmanship just like you guys have been doing. Now see the difference how it lines up? Now try and see the difference lines up. Now try and that's okay. That might be a little bit of natural point of aim because you know you were speaking. Yeah, it's bringing it here, and that engages those back and trap muscles, and then bringing that leg in if we haven't done so already. That lines everything up, and now all of a sudden we're hitting where we want to. If we open it up a little bit, it gives the gun room to move.
Yeah, the dot.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Good, excellent.
So those could have been better, but you know.
Yeah, as long as they're in here.
Exactly. Covered by hand, you're good.
That's all I care about. Yep, absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
The farther I am, the more time that I have. So one of the things that I've found as I've been running these battle standards is I run my front sight up anyway because I have a laser there. Okay? But what I found as I'm doing this, traditionally when we teach CQB style stuff, or you know, you guys with Cephalic or things, and we bring out a VTAC wall that has a 45-degree angle and a 90-degree angle, and we start turning the guns at these odd angles, we talk about, you know, the trajectory changes and gravity is still affecting it. With these, yep, do what you need to do. With these red dots, even though they're all promoted as parallax free, actually have a little bit of parallax in it. So when I turn the gun on its side, if I don't have a additional visual reference of where the muzzle is, aka the front sight, and be able to lollipop it, I can completely miss. Now, if we were to do it at 50 yards, you guys turn your guns on the side and didn't apply anything, you're still gonna hit. You're still gonna hit. This doesn't really apply until after we get past 100, more about 125, 150, where we got to think about now the arc of the trajectory is different and gravity is affecting it, so we got to aim towards the magazine side and a little high, etc. That's not what this is about. What I'm bringing this up is, if it was good for that in a reference of where the muzzle is, as I get back in a more solid, stable, durable position, and I have a little bit more time, I started noticing my front sight in my periphery. And when I was looking through and aligning my red dot at 100 yards and seated and prone, on that heart that's down there, I noticed that my front sight was canted over a little bit. Now, at 100 yards, is it really a big difference? No, not that much. But I was noticing if my heart was here and my rifle was canted this way, that I had a nice group, but it was about right here. Still in an acceptable target area down there, and it would have stopped the threat. But as soon as I started referencing my front sight in relation to my dot, if that's what you're running, okay, my group moved back over. Now I'm not lollipopping it like we would at a 45 or a 90, where if I've got my front sight post, I'm taking the dot and lollipopping it on top. Okay, I'm just having that dot hover over top, and I'm getting a peripheral reference of where my front sight is to make sure my gun's straight up and down. So it makes a little bit of difference. So if you want to try and do that, integrate it into your system at an appropriate time with the appropriate position that you're shooting, do so. You'll see that it's going to help with your groups a little bit. So now we're going to do that seated position. Again, it'll be at your leisure. Get down into the seated position. Try your feet in the different ways. Okay, check your natural point of aim. 5-round group to the heart. And then we'll go down and check it and wrap up for the day. You can make your way to your feet.
Because I want to point out for the camera.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I keep doing this.
So with this, Abner, and it's really subtle, and a lot of people don't realize this.
I'm backing up so I can get the bigger picture.
Yeah, no problem. That we talk about this with trigger control, and I haven't brought it up because I'm inundating people with so much other information that.
Oh yeah, this information overload.
Yep. So this is my way of showing it. If this is my trigger here, okay, and so I can utilize my finger, and I place my finger low on the trigger like we talked about because of the curvature and to have leverage and dexterity. What I want you to watch when I press this straight to the rear is from the tip of my finger to the second joint there, but in particular I want you to watch this joint. Okay, this is something that we have to be able to do, and I'm doing it left-handed because you're left-handed, so you can see. Watch what happens as I start here.
Yeah.
See how it flattens out?
Yep.
Okay, so when we learn and have that ability to do that and flatten that out when I press straight back, then I don't cant the gun. Because all your other mechanics are pretty good. Now this would be one of the cases where trigger manipulation is causing a little bit of a shift where we're at. And maybe a little bit of natural point of aim too, but when we're pressing the trigger, we're actually misaligning the gun.
So you're saying you want this first knuckle to flex like this as I pull?
Yep, to flatten out.
Aha.
So, because if I have curvature, okay, I either come over too much and pull the gun towards me, or if I don't have enough, I push the gun the other way.
Yeah, which is why I do the thumb isolation to the left side of the gun.
Yep.
Yeah, quick note for you guys at home, this man is a sniper instructor, which is why we're getting this little tidbit, even though this is a tactical class.
Yep, but it's still the same with the fundamentals of marksmanship and how we manipulate the trigger. You're just at the point now, and everybody's at the point where we can get these new little nuancical things, and that's a word 3 people voted on it.
Nuancical.
To improve that, and so that's a great group that you shot right there. I think if we fix your finger, it's going to move right over there, and it's awesome. And we can see how solid, stable, and durable position, how solid and stable a durable position a seated is. Okay, and we can get in and out of it relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And so.
Guess what I'm working on this week before I come back next Friday?
Good.
That.
Yep. And that will pay dividends as we get into the intermediate distance rifle carbine and scout marksman, but specifically that intermediate distance, because we do a lot of positional shooting at what I think is acceptable distances for each position. So we get a lot of work in there. So
all right.
We learn about trajectory, and we learn about the positions and how we can maximize them to get good hits and then get up out of them. So
thank you, sir.
You're welcome. How we looking, Brian?
Good. I didn't get my swing time up.
That's okay. That's okay. Still really good.
This one, it's like, I think I need to actually bring this part up because I got this maxed out here because I couldn't make it.
Well, am I as a shooter? Okay, and Jay, you nailed it on the head. Okay, he's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm not super happy with it, but I'm getting tired. Fatigue is a major factor Okay, it's been a long day. It's been hot. You guys have been out here, you know, a little over 7 hours of actual training, you know, with some breaks, and then we took an hour lunch. That's a long day, man. You got a lot of information. Fatigue starts to play in here. That's my capabilities as a shooter. And so if we're starting to see these groups open up a little bit, and, you know, don't be discouraged by it, because you guys are freaking tired. I know I'm tired. I'm tired. And so just think about that. And we're at saturation point. I know it. Brian's yawning here, and I can see it in everybody's eyes. They're starting to go like this, because we can only put so much information into that short-term memory. So we had the ability to process it over into long-term memory and be able to recall it later on, especially in a stressed environment. So overall, excellent work all day. Does anybody have any questions of anything that we covered from this morning up until completion now? Sweet action. Okay. Thank you again for coming out. I really appreciate it. I really do. I hope, and I'll ask the same question I always ask, does everybody feel better prepared now than when they were this morning when they first got here? Absolutely. Okay, cool. Then I did. A lot sweatier. Yeah, a lot sweatier. Then I did something right at some point today, which is good. As you guys all know, I'm extremely passionate about this stuff, and I want to try and make you as the best that you can possibly be. And we hope that you never have to use any of this stuff that I teach y'all. But hope is a bad strategy. Hope's a bad strategy. So I want you to be prepared. Okay, this is what needs to happen. I want you to get in a safe direction. I want you to get your rifles in a condition that you want them to be in to leave here tonight. Unloaded, go to war ammo, whatever the case may be.